Hello traders, welcome to another Bitcoin analysis. Just going to be talking about BTC today. We had quite a bit of a dump here. Overall throughout the cryptocurrency market, BTC took a nosedive and a lot of other trades took a nosedive. Also, I didn't take this trade. The setup was out with family last night. Unfortunately, could not catch this. It was around midnight to 11 o'clock-ish last night. But I've been eyeing it up for a while. But that is just a part of trading in a 24-hour market. If you're with friends and family, obviously you don't want to be a person who just does not leave the house and does not see friends or family. So unfortunately, there are times where you do miss opportunities. But that's okay. Monday to Friday, we're definitely on the charts very, very disciplined and consistently. So let's first talk about the weekly and then go through the different time frames here. We just had a massive move to the downside. Well, not absolutely massive, but a strong move to the downside. So we just had a strong impulse push. Does not mean that we'll instantly get a pullback. We don't exactly know where the end of the impulse push is. But with that in mind, I think we will be a little bit patient and actually wait for a little bit of consolidation to see where the price is holding, where the key levels and minor levels are within the smaller time frames, and then go from there. But like always, we want to start with a weekly time frame. So we always go over this, but as we get further down, the short opportunity becomes less and less ideal because the reward to our main level of support gets reduced and then it shrinks each time we see a fall. So right now, in my opinion, the key level of demand or support is going to be around the $7,800 level. Now we can see in the past it's had a support and a resistance, very, very well respected. Now we do see a candle closure above the area, as well as here right too, as well as here right too. So it's not absolutely perfect, and what we could do is if we just move this rectangular zone a little bit higher so it's in line with that peaking candle closure right there, we can see that we're basically right at the zone. And this is also able to come in and hit those candle closures there, hit the wick to the downside candle closure there. So in my personal view, we could move it up a little bit. Oops, I moved the lower half. So there we go. So it does look like a pretty wide zone, like so. I think we could move it up a little bit. Sort of like that, maybe. Just so we're capturing that resistance. So if we move that zone, like I said, it's not an exact point. It is a range on a price area or an area within the chart that either has buyers or sellers within that particular zone. It's just a zone of sensitivity where price is going to react. So at this point in time, shorts, like we'll look at the smaller time frames, but as we get further down, like I said, the short looks less and less ideal. And if we just take this away for one moment and zoom out a little bit more on Coinbase. Now this is this green curved trend line we have on BLX, but we just put a trend line on the Coinbase exchange, and then we have our first anchor point right here, and then we have our first reaction, second reaction, third reaction, fourth reaction, fifth reaction, sixth reaction. So very, very well-respected chart. We have many, many reactions all throughout 2016 and 2017, and then we see that it's respected very well at the end of 2018 and the start of 2019 right there. And then we bottom out at 6,500 at the end of 2019 to respect it once again. So we know that this is a valid long-term ascending trend line that's been respected multiple times. Now, yes, it could break 100%. There's no guarantee in anything when it comes down to the markets. But when you look at how many times we've tested before, how probable is the outcome of it going up to then breaking it? Well, in my opinion, personally, it's pretty probable. There's a high probability chance that we could be seeing a move to the upside instead of a break to the downside, because we've seen the trend hold this so well for so long. So in that said, we see that the price is fairly close to our support zone, which is a confluence area, not just for this ascending trend line, but also what we talked about, this horizontal zone. So now what we can create is a picture where there's lots of buyers around kind of close to where the price is. It could drop a little bit more. Like I said before, 78, 77 is going to be my final level of support that I think will hold if it does get to that level. So there is space still left for short opportunities, but we got to keep in mind that it's coming up. So when we're looking at risk rewards, when we're looking at take profit levels, we have to be, in my opinion, a little bit more conservative. Now, every single trader is different. Some people are thinking that the price is going to go down to 3 or even like under 1,000. I have no idea. I try to kind of stick in my own lane and stick my own little bubble, but I'm sure some people are very, very short bias in the market, and that is their view. 100%. I'm all right with everyone having their own view. That's what's great about the market, but this is my take on the price action. So, and with that said, going to be mainly looking for longs, I think, through this month. If it does drop a little bit more, if we consolidate, we can get one more small drop. But overall, when we're looking at definitely next month and kind of later half of this month, I do think that shorts are going to be a little bit harder to find if you want to extend your take profits. If you're looking for a quicker 2-to-1 take profit, if you're kind of on a smaller time frame, being able to manage risk, and if you're looking for 2.5 risk reward, that's fine. But those long extensions of like 4 or even 5, I personally don't think I'll be going for those to the short side. Now, if we do get some rejection from the buyers and we know that there is significant levels of buy pressure coming into the market, let's say sometime next week, well, then we might be shifting our bias to a long opportunity, because we know on the longer term time frame that we are nearing a key zone of support. So we have to understand the larger time frame before trading the smaller one. So like theoretically, yeah, we could be looking for shorts, but next week, if we do dump quickly earlier in the week, we might be looking for long opportunities. Yeah, we might be taking, a small loss or a couple losses, but in my opinion, the opportunity is there to find a really good entry at a potential low there, 78, 79, 8K or somewhere like that, and then to be able to ride it up and then test this resistance yet again that we've respected now here basically 3 times. And then the squeeze will continue, where you're going to probably get another retest of this zone, a little bit lower than the previous high, and then we'll see if it's able to break. If it's able to break, well, then we'll be definitely looking for a potential move towards the upside. But overall, that is the next couple weeks, next week kind of outlook for me personally. Now to the daily chart. I just drew this on the Gemini exchange. It's going to represent the ascending trend line that I have on BLX, as well as the Coinbase exchange on the weekly, but I put it on the daily on Gemini as well, just to have a somewhat of an understanding that there's buyers around here, but I wanted to create somewhat of a confluence zone. It's not going to be absolutely perfect, but I got an anchor point right here, I got a resistance right here, and I got support. So it's a pretty well respected zone, and then I got a type B and then a type A. So we do have a respected zone here, and then we have our horizontal zone that we've mentioned before, key level throughout the chart. So now we have our zone of confluence, where we know that there's a high probability of buyers within this area. So we can see right now we formed kind of like a head and shoulders, and then a larger head and shoulders, where you can kind of potentially see a head and shoulders here, and you can also see a larger head and shoulders in here. So if we do break to the downside and come back and retest this zone, I think a short opportunity could be here to here for a bit of a scalp, because that is talking about the daily. We could be seeing at least like a 5-6% move, and that would be pretty well worth it, because if you're risking 1.5 or whatever percent, obviously the risk reward is there. But the potential for it to go down further than this, I think I'm not going to be trying to take. If it goes down further, well, then we will have to definitely reassess a lot of the longer term macro patterns. I do see a support here, obviously, But overall, I do think that we got a pretty key area of confluence right here. We do have space, like we said, to the area of support, our final area of support. But as we get further and further down and closer to our area of support, we will have to make sure that we are not trying to short right into a resistance, and we have some room to actually capture some profits. And then if we just get too close to a level, or sorry, support, my bad, not resistance. And if we just get too close to support, well, then we'll have to be patient and look for a long opportunity when the price does inevitably or hopefully come down to these levels. So let's go to the 4-hour chart. We really broke down the longer term time frame. This is just a Heikin-Ashi. This is the ascending trend line that we drew on the smaller time frame, just connecting the $6,400 zone and then the next recent high, and then we created it for the third trend line with 3 touch points with the ascending trend line. And once we broke to the downside, definitely looks a little bit more bearish because we broke that ascending trend line. We see strong bearish volume come into the market. Now I do notice we are holding this zone right here. So we pushed past a significant zone, which was the 86-ish $100 level of support. That was a significant zone because it was a confluence zone for the horizontal and the ascending level of support. Not perfectly 85, but around that zone, that support zone. We broke below it. We hit our next zone of sensitivity where the price now has some interaction with that area. I think we could see a pullback here, completing the exhaustion phase because this was a push. Look how strong that push was to the downside from basically our high here, our lower high, because we made a high, lower high, lower high, lower high, and then we could be making a lower high here. So it could be good for a potential entry for a short because we do understand that on a smaller time frame, we broke our ascending trend line, we broke our horizontal level of support, and then we made a lower low, and this is a lower high. We're looking for another lower high. We see strong volume distribution in the overall market. Price action is looking good. Market structure is looking good on the 4-hour. So there's a lot of indications that tell us that we're definitely looking for shorts. And then looking on the 4-hour here, what I did is unfortunately, let's just talk about market structure and the trend lines that we're going to talk about with this. So unfortunately, this trend line could not get hit. So we see rejection there, rejection there, rejection there. So it's pretty well respected with the anchor point right there. We didn't really see a rejection off that zone again. The price didn't make it all the way to that area. So it is a trend line that I'll keep on there in case the price does come back to that level and we see some level of an interaction. But overall, our new trend line that we're going to be looking at is going to be with an anchor point right here. We have our first interaction right there, and then we have our second major interaction right there. So we got 3 validations and reactions of this zone. So if we get one more, then we can call it a dependable zone. But right now it's a potentially dependable zone. We'll leave it on the chart. We'll also leave the other one on the chart because we have 1, 2, and 3, same sort of deal for the 2 trend lines. Now that is the move for the upside. And then talking about what happened recently, we got a strong level of support at around 85.50-ish, and then we broke past it like we talked about. We made a lower low from that zone. So I think a safe bet and a safe entry to be short would be looking for a lower high right around here at the retest of the previous support, which will be a new level of resistance at around the $86,000-$8,500 zone. Now, there is an ascending trend line, so there could be a pullback that is going to be more significant than this zone that will retest the actual confluence for the sellers for the ascending trend line in the horizontal zone, which is using this mid-range minor zone right here with the ascending zone right here to create our zone of confluence at this point. So we could have 2 potential areas where we are going to get some sellers to be coming in. One opportunity that you could do, or one strategy that you could do, is potentially enter like a percentage of your capital here and then see if it rejects, and if it only rejects once, you wouldn't really enter. And then if there's a double rejection, maybe you might put 20, 33%, 25%, some percentage. And then if it does manage to make a lower low and a lower high, then you might be looking to enter. But then if it does come back higher, you'll have a stop loss because you only put a portion of your capital in. So if it does come to this range here, you're still able to enter and manage your risk, because ideally, you'd put your risk probably at this zone here because you'd want the price to basically respect this zone of resistance and support. So you do want to give that price room in case there is a wick, but at the end of the day, if the price does go above that area, you want to get out of the market. So that is the analysis. I think right now it's a little too late. It just made its strong push, so there's going to be some reaction here. And let's just look to see maybe what we can find for potential pullback, because we're not looking for a crazy pullback, but I think something like this we could see. Give me one moment here while I find it. And then bars pattern, kind of like this, maybe, because it likes to dump, and then we can mirror this. Kind of like so. So what I'm thinking is right now, let's get our dump down. We got a strong move to the downside, right? With any strong move, how does the market move? It moves and pushes in impulse waves, right? So it makes moves to the downside, which are our pushes or impulse waves, and it makes corrective moves or pullbacks, which are these waves right here. They're pullbacks, and the market doesn't move from point A to point B in a straight line. That's not how it works. It moves in waves. There is a fight between the buyers and sellers. It ebbs and flows. So understanding that, we made our push to the downside. Basically a straight line. We didn't get really any pullback whatsoever. How many green candles did we get from basically point A at the high to where it looks like point B, where we really haven't got a pullback yet? We've seen one single green candle, just one. So we can see that this is just all one push. The sellers are just pushing it down further, right? So there's no pullback. The buyers are just getting absolutely slammed. So in that said, we're gonna get some level of a pullback because the market always moves in yes, sometimes there is a straight dump and there's no pullback 100%. But when you're looking at larger time frames, there will be some level of a pullback. And at this point in time, push to the downside, pull back. I think that's going to be something that we're looking for. We might not get the hit all the way to 78. I don't exactly know. But I think at the shorter time frame, we will be looking for shorts next week, and ideally we'd like to see some level of a pullback here because we broke a minor zone, but still very significant on the 4-hour, hour chart, even the daily chart of this level of support here. And then we broke it, very, very clearly breaking this zone. So next week, potentially looking for a nice area of resistance at around 85, 86. And then if we do break that, still be looking short for this next zone here, and if we break that, then my bias will change. But at that point, we will be potentially breaking our next descending trend line, which will then shift our bias from a bearish bias to then a bullish bias, because then we will not only have crossed this descending trend line, but we will also cross this ascending trend line, which is now our current level of resistance. So it's a double confirmation of a resistance around here. If we break that zone, our bias will shift, but as long as we're sticking below this area, we're now playing within the range. Let's go like this, kind of like this. So we broke the zone, like so. Let's just make that. And then now we're playing the range of this resistance right here to then our next level of support, our main level of support at around 78. We do see this ascending trend line creating a higher low potential than what we could be seeing, but I think this horizontal zone is going to be the main the main area that I'm going to be looking at, not so much the ascending zone. So that is the potential outlook for me in terms of the 4-hour or hour chart. I don't exactly know where this pullback is going to be for where the time frame is. I'll have to see, but that's basically what I'm looking for. And then having a nice ascending trend line, having a squeeze, and then This happens pretty often, where you get a squeeze, 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 and then you just get one massive dump to the downside. So I think that is overall the outlook for next week, and I'll be looking for that. And we'll have to be patient, obviously, because it could be a little while. We could be playing some 5-minute smaller term intraday trades within this move. If we're right at the resistance and we're going to get a small pullback, that could be a 4 or 5, even, something 4 or 5% pullback on an altcoin if it is holding a nice ascending trend line on a smaller term time frame. That could be a good opportunity as well. So there is opportunity within this move, but I'm just talking about the next major move, the next major 4-hour daily candle push. That is kind of where the money is made. You're not going to make a shit ton of money just from scalping tiny moves within a consolidation. The real potential is when you're able to capture these large significant pushes to the downside. So that is, in our mind, our goal. Obviously, you're not going to catch every single push, but that is the goal for the time frame that we're trading at, which is, we do intraday trade, but ideally like 2, 3, 4 swing trades. Getting solid pushes to the upside or downside is our goal. So anyways, that's the 4-hour chart. I will leave this here just as a template for us to look at and say, what could we be looking at, or what could we be trying to find for entries? Something like this might be a really good situation where we see a resistance get held, we're not able to push above it, we're seeing higher lows, squeezing the price. The price has to make a decision. The momentum's to the downside. What's the higher probability situation? So the next one is going to be the 1-hour chart. We're going to leave it at that. So basically, it looks exactly like the 4-hour chart here. Not a whole lot to talk about. We see the push to the downside. We're seeing a consolidation here, potentially lower low, and then we're looking for that lower high here to form. Not a crazy amount of stuff to discuss here on the 1-hour chart because the 4-hour kind of illustrated exactly what we're looking for. It's a bit of a rejection here. Some climactic volume on the 1-hour chart. Stronger volume than we've seen the last, basically since 26th of February. So very significant volume that is going to kind of complete that strong push. So that's good to see, because then we could see a little consolidation here. We could see a little bit more of a drop, but I don't think we're going to get that next solid push. I think we might see a little bit of a consolidation, and if we're able to get that little push to the upside, that would be really good for us as a nice potential short if we get to this level here, 84, 85. I think that would be a good opportunity because, like we said before, previous level of support, it's going to be a new level of resistance. And also, we can see on the hour chart, we did put it in. We didn't talk about it on the 4-hour chart, but this zone I did draw in as a potential level of support, but we blew right through it, so we got no real interaction within that zone. So we got our anchor point right here. We have 1, 2, 3 interactions with that zone. We did get a candle closure, but it wasn't much. So now if we are going to pull back, we got not only the previous support right here, which is going to be our new level of resistance, but we also see a descending zone create a net of confluence, giving us a higher dependability that there's going to be sellers at that area, as well as the VSA looks good, market structure looks good. The probability is pretty good for us to a short side if the price does inevitably hit that zone. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how the price not hit that zone, but if we get a reaction at that zone. That is the key word that we're looking for. Just like for a potential long entry here, we were looking for a strong level of reaction and we didn't get it, right? We saw a consolidation. We didn't see a higher high form. We didn't see any real indication of bulls entering the market. Not a significant amount of volume. There was a decent amount of volume right there, but then the next volume just didn't really gain any volume at all. So there was no real increasing volume. There was no higher high, higher low form. There was no real indication to say, okay, we're looking to now potentially enter a long opportunity. So in my opinion, it wouldn't be an entry here, personally. Like, you see it hit here twice, that makes sense. But I'd like to see, because it's a consolidation, a higher high, and then once it's able to hold a higher low at that consolidation, well, then the market structure is there. So then looking at the three variables we look at is able to take you out of a few trades that might have been losers, which is, in my opinion, a very important aspect of trading, is getting rid of the trades that aren't working, because it's really easy to fall into the trap of just trading whatever you think is good and not really sticking to a criteria. So very important. But not a whole lot more to talk about on the 1 hour here. We're just holding a consolidation. We'll see if we're able to make, because of the climactic volume, we'll see if we're able to make a kind of a consolidation, and then maybe a potential move up to the previous support, which is going to be the new level of resistance. So that's the ideal outcome for the next little bit here. If we're able to make a nice little push to around this zone, then we'll be looking to short. Now overall, there are some alts that I'm only really looking to long. Link is one of them. Link is holding a really nice descending trend line. We'll talk about that very shortly. What we will go over is just the tools that we're using within the market to understand, or try to understand, the supply and demand within the Bitcoin market. So the first thing we're going to do is visual representation, which did shift quite a bit. Now, yesterday we didn't see a massive bearish candle in the margin trades long, and we didn't see a huge spike in the shorts. Now, we did see both of those today, where so this represents the amount of trades open on margin long on Bitfinex, and these are shorts, same thing. So the amount of long positions opened have just got slammed because a lot of positions, I'm sure, got taken out from the stop loss because of the move down. Totally making sense. But keep in mind, we're still within the consolidation. Now, you might not be able to see it clearly, but we were holding a very, very key level of resistance right here for the buyers, not being able to push the price above a certain zone, not being able to open a certain amount of margin trade because there was a hesitation and a lack of confidence. When we broke above it, there was a surge of confidence and a surge of pressure from the bulls to buy up BTC. We got a massive volatility spike twice, and then now we're coming back to our ranging area. Now, in my opinion, this is still a ranging area. We could play around here. Like I said before, this is in line with the overall structure from the weekly and daily chart, because like we talked about before, we don't have a whole lot of room to the downside. We could see a little bit of pressure to the downside, but there isn't real much confidence, so it's not going to take a whole lot of strength to push the price down, compared to if there's a lot of strength, like we can see here, there's a lot of confidence from the bulls. It's going to be harder to push the price down because there's a lot of strength. People are going to be buying the dip. They're anticipating the price to be appreciating in the near future, compared to when there's less confidence, less people are going to be thinking that, so then it's easier to push the price down. There's less buyers holding up the price, basically. So we could see a bit of a drop. But overall, I think, in my opinion, the consolidation will be around here, where we're seeing the demand and the bulls start to stabilize and start to look to enter the market again. Now, this isn't guaranteed. Nothing in the market is guaranteed. But in my personal opinion, the time to start accumulating and the volume accumulation period within the market structure is soon coming. For the shorts, we do see increasing short seller or short selling activity in Bitfinex as an exchange. Totally making sense, because there is a surge of FOMO people wanting to jump in on this downtrend, on this push to the downside, which, yeah, you could have made definitely some significant profits if you caught a bit of a top there. But like we talked about, going to be a little bit more patient and try to get the higher or the lower high to form for me to enter short. So that is the BTC markets. I'm gonna quickly look at the comments here. So the next section that we're going to be looking at is going to be the crypto market. So we're going to be looking at different altcoins. XRP, Link, Binance Coin, EOS, and Ethereum are going to be the altcoins that we're going to be looking at today to be reviewing for this upcoming week. So we already talked about and hinted at Link, and this is Chainlink paired with US Tether. Now, this is definitely an outlier. Every single altcoin that you will see today, other than Link, within this video will be bearish and will not look like it is going to be looking like it's going to break out. But Link is the only pair that is looking like it's really bullish. Now, why do we think it's really bullish? Firstly, after we broke this descending or this ascending trend line, we did get the bears to push the price down, but look at this rejection. Massive rejection to the upside here with a huge bullish engulfing candle, engulfing 1, 2, 3, 4 candles prior on the 4-hour chart with immense amount of buy pressure bringing up the price. So that just shows me how strong the bulls are. And I think that we could probably draw some trend line connecting these two lows. I don't exactly know, but let's just try to connect the lows here and see if we can, because it definitely seems like we look like we would be able to. Let's just put the trend line right here. Yeah, it's not perfect. I might drop it to right here and see if that works. I think that works a little bit better, like so. Not really perfectly connecting these three because that just looks appealing to the eye to draw a trend line there. Maybe not so much. I'm going to stick with what I have right here. And I'll also put a projection. But yeah, I was hopefully waiting for Link to come a little bit further down. And then it would have been a good entry, in my opinion, to long. But like I said, buy zone 3.5-ish. But the price never got to that area. It got bought up sooner. Obviously, there was a buyer who thought a similar thing as me, but who acted a little bit quicker and wasn't really greedy. I didn't mind to pay a little bit higher of a price to attain the asset. So right now we are nearing the all-time highs here, and the main thing we're really looking at, for me at least, is this descending trend line right here. That is going to be the main thing that I'm going to be looking at. So we're getting a squeeze in price. This is the all-time high, by the way, $4.80 something cents, $4.90 basically. That resistance there is the all-time high. We just drew in that ascending trend line. So now what are we going to be looking for? We got a squeeze in price, right? We play squeezes all the time. We got a descending zone right here connecting the lower highs. We saw, like we just drew in, this ascending support. Now ideally, yeah, we could incorporate that, but the main ascending support is going to be this green zone right here. So we see a higher low, we see a higher low, higher low, higher low. So we're making higher lows, pushing the price towards the upside with a descending zone squeezing the price in. So in my opinion, the momentum is to the upside, which is number one. The volume is to the upside. Number two, major volume accumulation. We see strong buy volume compared to the limited amount of sellers in the market. That just shows you that there is more buyers holding the price than there is sellers trying to distribute it into the market. Thirdly, after, like we talked about, that descending trend line got broken, in my opinion, we shouldn't have seen this much buyers enter the market. That should have been a confidence breaker or some level of weakness to the buyers, because a break in a trend line, an ascending trend line, is weakening. It's more bearish, but after that one strong push, we saw the buyers just absolutely take control of the market and see a massive bullish candle. So there's, to me, a lot of breadcrumbs or indications that's saying the bulls are in the market. The bulls are really trying to push the price up, and we see this is the all-time high, and Link is kind of the only pair that's trending as an outlier compared to a lot of the different alts. You see any real, I don't really see any other real pair. I'm not looking at as many pairs as I used to, but I'm looking at all the main pairs, looking at Dash, Link, Ripple, BNB, EOS. A lot of these pairs are following BTC, but Chainlink, no other pair sees this bullish push. So definitely there's big money buying into the market in Chainlink, and not really looking in any other market itself, because we see the increase in volume. So that's why I'm looking at a potential long for Link. So basically what we're looking for is a break in the descending trend line, and then the systematic approach of breaking a descending trend line that we take every single time. So looking at the hour chart, very, very well respected. Now this is awesome because it's a very respected zone, so we know if we break it, there's a definitive area we can say, okay, if it breaks this, we're looking to enter after this specific set of criteria is met. If it breaks below it, we have a definitive, easy to identify area that we say, if it breaks this certain zone, I'm now less confident in the overall outlook of my trade, so then I'm going to close it. So it's easy for me to see when I'm wrong, which then is, for me, easy to then manage my risk. If I have a very wide range where I don't really know where the zone is, but it's kind of around this zone, it's going to be hard for me to decide when to close the trade because it's a very wide zone. It could go on for a little bit longer, and I'll always think to myself, it could pull back, it could reverse because it's a wide zone. But for me, this descending zone is very, very nice, clean, crisp, easy to see, so I can very, very easily determine if it's above or below this area. Line that up with this horizontal zone of support that we see right here, which is now going to be our new level of resistance, and then you have a very well-respected, easy-to-understand level of confluence at around the $4.58 range. So for me, that is going to be the area that I personally want Link to pass before I look to long. Now, my stop loss is going to be here. We do have the all-time high back at $4.80 or $4.90-ish range. So the key last level of supply is still above us. So we are entering long into a level of supply. But one thing, when we do see the price at that level, what we're going to try to do is limit our risk, so then the level of supply is going to be at a risk reward of hopefully minimum of like 1.25, 1.5, 1.75. So then we're able to reduce our risk a significant amount, maybe half, maybe 75%, maybe somewhere in the middle around there. So then if the price does reject at the supply zone and come back down, we're then able to hopefully not maybe break even, but close to it. Because in my opinion, this, if it does break and pull back and we get the criteria and the confirmation at around this zone that there's buyers in the market, I'm willing to take that risk. I'm willing to speculate that the price is going to be going up further because we see Link just be such an outlier from the different alts that I'm currently looking at. It's gaining so much more buy volume. This is the all-time high ever, and no other alt is really there. I always have been looking at Link because it moves a little bit differently than a lot of different alts that I look at a daily basis. But recently, we've just seen a surge in buy pressure come into Link. So I'm going to wait for confirmation, which is going to be above this, like I've already talked about. But at the end of the day, Link is already at such a great spot compared to all the different alts. Imagine when the actual overall market starts to trend up. It's going to be ballistic. So I'm not saying buy Link right now or anything, but just from a trader's standpoint, looking at how the price action moves, for one, and for two, the level of demand that we're seeing throughout the entire chart, and three, where it already is relative to the different altcoins within the market and how much appreciation it's seen compared to kind of the overall altcoin market. BNB is another great one that has seen significant moves to the upside as well compared to a lot of the other ones. I'm talking about like for example, everyone's super hyped on Ripple, but it's doing extremely poorly. And yeah, there's a lot of partnerships and that's great and all, but looking at just the price action, just the appreciation of the asset, you can't argue that things like Link and BNB are superior in terms of just price appreciation and being able to hold its value compared to things like Ripple, which to me is very surprising because it's a very common coin to see in a lot of people's portfolios. So, in that said, let's now go to XRP. Let's go to the daily chart. Coming back down to a low here. So this is that low that we tested. I think it's the lowest point on this exchange, Binance. It is the lowest point on the chart. I don't know if it's the lowest point on the Bitfinex chart, because it's a longer term history chart. But we did break our ascending trend line that we drew in. We had our anchor point right here, and they got our first touch point, and then we got our second or third interaction right here. We broke below it. So we are looking for shorts only on XRP because we broke our ascending zone. We broke our horizontal zone. We could theoretically make it a little smaller, but we can see we're closing below that area. So now we are basically only looking for shorts for XRP. We're going to jump into the 4-hour chart here. Massive rejection with the wick to the downside. So this is a strong push. So, at this point in time, do we really want to be entering just right now? I personally don't think so. I think it makes more sense to wait for a really good price action pattern. Looking at the smaller time frames, we see a resistance at our previous level of support. 21541 is our new resistance zone. And we see the price rejecting that zone multiple times. And we could really just, kind of go to the smaller time frames and really get into the granular details, but we're not really going to. I'd like to see on the 15-minute chart. Overall, I'm looking for a potential, at least horizontal zone, so we're forming a consolidation, and once we form a lower low, potentially entering on the lower high would be a good opportunity, or we're just forming an ascending trend line. Once that ascending trend line does break, and then it forms a lower low, we're potentially entering on the pullback when it retests that ascending trend line for a lower high. Also, if there's a confluence zone of a horizontal level of previous support and new resistance, that would even give that pattern a greater level of significance. So we're looking for pretty specific things. On a Sunday, I'm not really looking to enter. I'd like to wake up Monday and see what we're able to find after a little bit more consolidation, but I think this is a really good overview of what we're looking for this upcoming week. So we just made a strong move, which is great, and we're going to continue the momentum to the downside for our bias for XRP, and that's what we're going to be looking for this upcoming week. Link is the polar opposite, but we also need to see the price break a zone before we even look to enter, which is going to be, like I said before, around the $4.56-58 range. Next one is going to be Binance Coin, or BNB. So let's go to the daily chart yet again and see what has happened. So very strong move to the downside here. We're at a key zone. We can see back in the start of 2020 here, January, February, it was a very significant zone that we've respected multiple times. And then look at just that monster move. Absolutely huge. Yeah, crazy. It blows my mind how much price can move sometimes. But anyways, we're seeing the price now come back to our area at around $18. We said $20 was the key range here. We broke above it, and now we broke below it, slammed all the way back down to our major zone here. So talking about next areas that we could be seeing here, we got a next area of support at around $16.60-ish. Let's put a little zone for our next area of potential support, which is right around there. And we got our last level at the lows here at around $12, 13-ish, or we could hit our next one, which is probably going to be around $14.40, which is probably going to be the next next support. So right around here. So don't want to be looking too far ahead of ourselves. So we'll go to the 4-hour chart here. We're still holding our previous level of support, we can see. So we're not getting a confirmation and move to the downside yet. But if we do see a potential continuation pattern with an ascending trend line, that could be a nice entry for the next dump down. So we don't really have an entry just yet. Let's look at the 1 hour to just see the price hold this area. So not looking bad. It's holding, but like I said before, we just made a strong push, and now we're looking for a consolidation, an impulse, a pullback. Sorry, not an impulse. We're looking for a pullback. We're looking for a market breadth where the market is going to consolidate, and that is going to form our price action pattern, whether it'll be a symmetrical triangle, whether it'll be a ascending wedge, a bear flag, something that will give us an edge in the market that we can use to try to trade this momentum. But right now, we're not seeing anything, so we're just not going to enter. But we will do another crypto market update and a BTC market update tomorrow, like always. But this is a bit of a quick update for everyone for what we're going to be looking at for this upcoming week ahead. So let's go to the daily for Ethereum. Ethereum, same thing, broke the ascending trend line, broke the horizontal zone, broke both zones. We're looking for a pullback, and once we're able to see that nice pullback, we're looking for a push down to the downside, forming our next leg down. Now, this is all in confluence with BTC, right? Because we're looking for BTC to do the same thing. If we see BTC have a massive pullback and some indication that there's tons of buy pressure, well, then that could mean something for all of these alts. But what's nice about having an alt that you have a different bias on is if the market does shift, we're then already planned for Link. Like if we're looking short, okay, that's fine. We have all these, we're looking for XRP to form some sort of consolidation for us to enter short. Same with BNB. We're looking for some price action pattern for us to form, so then we're looking for an opportunity to short. But with Link, we're looking for a long. So whichever way the market goes, we can kind of adapt to it and find opportunities. And that's what navigating the market means. It's not just looking for a symmetrical triangle or some pattern. It's being able to create relationships and create relationships between the indications that price can give you, and also building a plan for yourself for multiple opportunities or multiple roads that you're able to take depending on how the market reacts to certain situations, and kind of always having a backup plan in case something happens. Because at the end of the day, no matter how experienced the trader is, they can't guarantee you what's going to happen no matter what. No one will be able to tell you what will happen as a guarantee. If they could, they wouldn't share it with you. So in knowing that, we always have to assume that there is a level of unknowingness and a level of uncertainty. And we have to trust ourselves when we're in a trade that it's going to go our way, even though there is a level of uncertainty. Very difficult, takes a long time to learn because it's a skill that you develop only through placing trades and being in uncertain situations and being able to overcome those and come through the other side, or get to the other side safely, or you see the profits due to patience and things of that nature. But it's very easy to get sidetracked. But now moving on, that was a little bit of psychology. Going on to the next trade, the next potential trade is Ethereum. We see that we are in a squeeze here. Let's just zoom out so we can see this ascending trend line that we're holding. So the descending trend line is right here. We got two reactions of the zone, and then we got our third one right here, making it a potentially dependable zone. We got an anchor point. We got 1, we got 2, we got 3, we got 4. So yes, definitely a dependable zone. And we've broken that zone, pushed to the downside. So now we are looking for shorts because we pushed below the ascending level of support. And also it looks like we are holding below the market structure low. I personally don't really want to be entering until we break this market structure low, because this is very, very significant, extremely. Now, in that said, I'm not really looking for longs at this zone because, like I said, our only real long, in my opinion, is going to be Link. If Ethereum does this, you can pretty well be sure Link will be doing something similar. And by that time, we'll be entering Link already, so we don't need to be looking for both directions on every single alt. We'll look and have our bias for short on some alts and have our long bias on others, and then we'll try to really, really assess which way the price is going and then make our decision when the market actually breaks. In this circumstance, we have broken, but at the end of the day, this market structure low is where we're wanting to what we're wanting to see pass before we look to look to short here. There's other opportunities in the market that have already made a low, like XRP have already made a low, so we don't have to worry about making a lower low. Last pair we're going to be looking at is going to be EOS. Look at that well-respected zone. That was also a pair I was looking at. I wouldn't even enter this even if I saw it. Let's just talk about it, and then we'll talk about the larger time frame. So we got one strong push, and then we saw a consolidation, and then instant drop. I was looking at this for a potential short, waiting for another pullback to around this zone. I was not awake at this time when it did drop. I wasn't looking at the charts, but I was hopefully going to see another rejection. So we saw one rejection here. I was like, okay, that's great to see. And we got a dip down here, and I was like, okay, that was a little bit further of a dip than I'd like. But I was wanting to see a couple more rejections at that zone, and then we would have seen literally exactly what happened. You know, yeah, there's like 23, so 11 o'clock, midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning. So I was, like I said, out with some family, and unfortunate, but that's just how it goes. You can't enter every single trade, or you can't just sit in front of a computer for 23 hours a day and not sleep or not see any other human being, because obviously that's just very unhealthy, and you got to have a life. So unfortunately, missed that trade, but that's just how it goes. A little bit unfortunate, but there's always going to be another opportunity. There's always going to be other situations where you're able to capitalize. So we made a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower low, lower low. So we just made a lower low, which is fine, but I think at this point we're going to be consolidating for a little while because this is our next area of support that we've seen here in the past. So I think we're going to be waiting for a little while for EOS. Not anything really worth trading in my opinion, because this is a level of support. And, you know, if we do see some interaction with this zone and we see a descending zone, we break a descending zone, we could be potentially looking for a potential long, but like I said, Link is really going to be the only thing we're going to be looking to long, and we have XRP and BNB for shorts. So I think we're pretty well positioned in the overall market, kind of no matter what happens, and we kind of have an idea of BTC. But thank you very much for watching. That's basically the end of the crypto market update. XRP, let's just put EOS back here, and then I'll put XRP here because that is the kind of the best short opportunity in my opinion that we have right now, because it's fully broken this zone here. So it's better than BNB because BNB is still above this zone. Ethereum is still above holding this level of support, whereas XRP is not. So XRP is the best for shorts, and then Link is, in my opinion, the best for longs, and then we've already discussed my outlook on BTC first. So thank you very much for watching. That was the crypto market update, as well as the Bitcoin analysis for today. It will be very exciting to see what we have in store for next week. Got a lot of volatility. The CME futures will be very exciting to see where they will open for tomorrow, or I guess for later today. But we'll do a quick video just on the CME futures when it does open. But after that, you know, I'm not going to be really talking about it too much, but we'll see where it opens. We'll see how big that gap is, if there's any wicks, all that stuff. So thank you very much for tuning in. If you have any questions, please drop a comment within the YouTube comment section below, and we'll be sure to answer it if it's relevant to the video. So if you would like us to maybe review another alt, definitely drop it in the comments, and we'll probably be able to do it for the next one. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.